Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Mailbag. This is, of course, our mailbag edition of our Monday through Friday AMC Movie Talk show. Now, for those of you who don't know how this works, on AMC Movie Talk, Monday through Friday, we do a segment on the show called AMC Mailbag, where what we do is we take your mailbag questions, so we can take your topics and your questions on the show. But we only have a chance to answer like one or two of them a day, so we started this brand new show called AMC Mailbag on the weekends, where all we do is take your mailbag questions and we interact with you on the chat board. And we are so pleased that you guys decided to join us today. My name is John Campy. I'm the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News. And with everybody being sick this weekend and everything, a valiant warrior decided to step up and help out. Ladies and gentlemen, my wife, Miss Ann Campia, is helping us today. She's going to be monitoring the chat board. How you doing, Ann?
I'm good. Are you trying to redeem yourself from yesterday's comments?
Maybe. I may have gotten a couple of strikes against myself yesterday.
Your mother is in the chat, so please be nice to me.
That's the big thing. Ann just pointed out that my mom is the chat. So I have to be on my absolute best behavior today. And I shall be. I shall be on my best behavior. But hey, listen. Before we get into it too much, I want to let you guys know about something in case you did not see the show yesterday. As some of you know, there was a pretty brutal disaster in the Philippines with the typhoon, and the devastation is just indescribable. It's just unbelievable how many people this has affected and how horrible the situation is there right now. And obviously, I have family in the Philippines. Actually, Ann's mom and dad were in the Philippines when the disaster happened. And that was a bit of a scary time. Yeah. And we continue to have family over there, and uncles and aunts and stuff. Like, you actually have family in the government there. Mm-hmm. And so we decided at AMC Movie Talk that what we wanted to do was, as a bunch of sweaty movie nerds, we're not as useless as everybody thinks we are. And we decided we wanted to start a campaign to help raise money to help the people over there. So if you will indulge us and help us out here, we have started a campaign to help the disaster victims. And you can see the URL here. It's www.crowdwise.com/AMC Movie News Philippines. Now, if you look in the description of this video, you'll also see a link. You can just click on it. It will take you to that page. We're partnering with the Red Cross on this, and you can just make a donation there. And we have raised over $1,500 in just 2 days, which I'm super psyched about. And the culmination of this fundraiser we're doing is on January 2nd. Mark this down in your calendar. On January the 2nd, myself and my whole AMC Movie News crew, we are going to do a live streaming 24-hour AMC Movie Talk marathon. A 24-hour AMC Movie Talk marathon. I know Ann is constantly talking about how I never shut up, and now we are really going to put to the test exactly how long I can blabber on and talk. So Schnepp's going to be here, and Ashley and Chris Lee, Amy Rose, Dennis, Aaron, the whole AMC Movie News crew. Plus, we're going to have a couple special guests as well. And the whole point of this is for us collectively, as a bunch of useless, sweaty movie nerds, that we can do some good. We're going to raise some money. So please consider hopping on over there. Drop $10, $20. A couple people have been dropping $100 in there, which is just awesome. We're floored by the response. Thank you so much for helping us, and please do so. And with all of that being said, it's time for us to get into our mailbag questions today, as I bring up our mailbag questions. And I don't actually have the mailbag graphics in front of me today because we had a technical problem, but I will just read off the mailbag questions, and you guys can follow along. So anyway, the first question that comes to us today comes to us from Mikel Olivas, who writes, Desolation of Smaug, the first Hobbit, was shown in a different frame rate, and this one, I believe, was also. But who approved that? I saw the movie in a 3D AMC theater, and it looked terrible. It had soap opera syndrome. It looked fake and completely took me out of the movie. No other way to explain it. It just looked like a soap opera, like soap operas do on HDTV. Just bad. Basically, my question is, what is up with that? And did anybody else feel the same way? Well, as a matter of fact, this whole issue of 48 frames per second, that's what you're talking about now. Normally, For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, normally movies are shown at a frame rate of 24 frames per second. That's just, 24 still images flashed to us in a single second that creates the illusion of motion and everything. So what the first Hobbit film did, what Peter Jackson did, they decided to do something very different, and they decided to increase the frame rate and do 48 frames per second. Now, in theory, what this does is gives us a better image and a smoother image as well. But what some people complained about when the first Hobbit came out, and continue to complain about now, is that it almost looks too realistic. And you mentioned soap opera-ish. That's the comparison that's being drawn a lot. It looks like TV HD cameras shooting a soap opera, and it doesn't look like a movie. Now, I have to admit, I'm not a fan of the 48 frames per second format. When I had a choice to go back and watch The Hobbit, I chose to watch it in a normal 24 frame rate. But there could be an argument made that the only reason we don't like this 48 frames per second thing is just because it's not what we're used to. It is technically higher quality than 24 frames per second. And so there is an argument to be made that maybe people like myself and some others who maybe don't like the 48 frames per second and complain that it feels soap opera-ish and whatnot, that really the problem is it's just not what we're used to. We're just used to something else. And even though this is technically better quality, it jars us because it's not what we're used to. So there's an argument to be made for that, but I completely see what you're saying. You're not the first one to come up with this problem, Mikel. Like I said, this goes back to the first Hobbit film as well. And speaking of the Desolation of Smaug, if you have not seen it, you need to see it. It's awesome. If you've seen it already, yesterday we put up our The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug AMC spoilers review. So just go to, if you want to know where to find it, just go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/AMC Theaters, and then scroll down our main page and you'll see AMC spoilers. And the first one right now is our spoiler-filled review of The Hobbit. Only watch it if you've seen the movie already, because it is completely filled with spoilers. So only watch it if you've seen the movie already, but it's awesome. And as somebody who's not like a filmophile, I mean, when you saw The Hobbit with me for the first time too, did you notice that whole 48 frames per second thing and making it look like a soap opera-ish, or has that ever stood out to you at all?
Yeah, it does. And like the person said on HDTVs, that kind of took me aback. The first time I saw it, it's like, wow, it's like watching somebody's home video or something. But I think you're right. I think we won't know if we're going to like it and accept it until somebody tries it.
A number of times. And tries it a number of times.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's going to just have to be integrated into other films in the future. But the one thing I will say is that 3D, on the other hand, I don't think I'll ever dig that. But this one, I think I could get used to.
All right. Okay, so let's go to the second question today, and the second one today, once again, I don't have the graphics today, so forgive me, comes from Luke Fremlin, and Luke Fremlin writes, "Hey there, everyone at AMC, I have a question for you, all to ponder about." Oh, good, I love pondering. So he goes on to say, "What do you think about the idea of Sony obtaining the rights to Blade and doing a Blade and Spider-Man movie together? Could also have Morbius in there as well. Do you like this idea? And what is the likelihood of it happening?" Well, to be honest, the likelihood of Sony obtaining the rights to Blade and then putting him together with Spider-Man is almost zero. There is almost a 0% chance of this happening. Now, do I like the idea? Let me address that first. I don't mind that idea, actually. I like the Blade character. The problem you're going to run into, though, is that a lot of us who like the Blade character, if we see Blade in a movie, we want an R-rated movie. We want an R-rated Blade movie because that's just the kind of character that Blade is, really. And no way in hell will Sony ever make a Spider-Man movie rated R. And if you put Blade in a Spider-Man movie, make no mistake, it's still a Spider-Man movie. And there's no way they're going to put Spider-Man in an R-rated film. Just not going to happen. So as a fan, that's the only problem I have with it. Now, on the likelihood of it happening, the reason I say pretty much zero is because the reason that other studios like Fox have the rights to X-Men and Fantastic Four, and the reason studios like Sony have the rights to Spider-Man is because Marvel, a number of years ago, went through a very hard time. And just to stay afloat, they started to raise money and raise cash. They started selling off the movie rights to a number of their characters. And they have always regretted that. Always regretted that. Now, Marvel is obviously no longer in financial straits. They have big, huge, mega hit films. They're now owned by Disney. They have all the cash in the world. So they're not worried about that. But I guarantee you Marvel is no longer in the business of selling off the movie rights to their characters. They would much rather keep their characters at home. And in the last year or two, they've started to reacquire some of those rights. Daredevil, for example, is now back home with Marvel. Blade is now back home with Marvel. And the moment that Fox, and Fox will never give up X-Men or Fantastic Four, but the moment that Fox or say Sony even look like they're ready to give up the rights to Sony, X-Men, or Fantastic Four, Marvel will snap them back up and never let them go again. Because I don't think they ever want to be in that position again. Look, even if Marvel has no plans for Daredevil, which cinematically I don't think they do right now, even if they have no future plans for Blade, which I believe cinematically they don't right now, but even if they never do, they would still rather have the rights to them in their back pocket so they have the flexibility that they can do that. They don't ever want to be in a situation like they are with Fox and X-Men right now, where this other studio is making great X-Men films and making lots of money on it and all that kind of stuff. They would rather have them in their own universe. So I'm pretty sure that Marvel is officially out of the selling off their movie rights game. And you've been keeping an eye on the chat board. Is anybody in the chat board saying anything about Blade and Spider-Man, or whether or not we could see characters like Blade or characters like Daredevil or any of that kind of stuff ever switch hands again and go back to Marvel, or whether it's something they would even want to see?
Well, I'm seeing some comments. Smithian Kingdom has an interesting comment. Sony could make up a Blade character, though, with another name, and somebody is saying the same for Spider-Man. Blader Raps is saying Sony could make their own hero that is very similar to Spider-Man if they cannot get the rights.
Yeah, with Blade, that's not a bad idea. With Blade, you could do that. I don't think another studio could make up their own version of Spider-Man. I don't think that would ever fly in a copyright infringement case. I don't think you'd ever be able to get away with that. But Blade, right? He's half vampire, half human. There's a million of those in TV and movies.
How
and
about eight-legged insect man?
Eight-legged insect man.
Blue.
Not blue and red. Red and blue. Yeah, never hold up in a copyright infringement case. Never. But maybe you could create a Blade knockoff, because like I said, the half human, half vampire thing is not new. You'd have to make significant changes to them. But you could put a Blade type character in there. But then what's the point? Because you'd want to capitalize on the Blade recognizability as opposed to creating a new guy who's not Blade. So I don't think they'd do that either. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Ewan Monroe. And Ewan writes, "Hey guys, love the show. Keep up the good work. I was wondering why AMC doesn't show more foreign films. I know AMC stands for American Multi-Cinema, but I would have thought that there would be some foreign films, especially since there have been so many great foreign films in so many years. I find it really sad that so many Americans haven't even heard of some of these great foreign films, and they only first hear about them when the Oscars come around and they think, what's that film? What are your thoughts?" A great question, Ewan. So basically he's asking, hey, why, the Oscars come around and we see all these great foreign films getting nominated for Best Foreign Picture, but the films we've never heard of, why aren't these films playing in AMC theaters? It's a fabulous question, and let me give this disclaimer before I attempt my meager excuse of an answer. I work with AMC, but when it comes to film programming, I really don't have anything to do with that. And so my answer to it is just as a slightly more informed observer rather than a real insider, okay? But I believe, so take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt. But the basic thing is this, is that if a film is going to show in a North American market, that is really up to the film's producers to decide. It's not up to AMC to decide. It's not up to any movie exhibitors to decide. It's up to the distributor of the film. AMC is not a film distributor. I mean, in some cases, like AMC Independent, we sometimes kind of act like a film distributor in some ways, but really, we're not a film distributor. We're just a theater company. So we exhibit the films. There's exhibitors, there's distributors, and we're not distributor. And so what happens is, let's take this for example. If you had an independent foreign film and you wanted to show it on AMC theaters, well, AMC, as an exhibitor company, we're only interested in putting movies in our theaters that will get people to come to the theater, or else it's losing AMC money. It's losing a movie theater money. If a movie theater, even like your local independently owned movie theater, if they put on Grazobat's The Italian Crusader, and maybe I could play that because I am Italian. So Grazobat's The Italian Crusader. Okay. If an independent little theater wants to show that film, that's fine. But if they put a movie on their screen that nobody comes to see, they lose they lose a lot of money. And nobody is in business to lose money. So what that independent theater will ask the producers of Grazobat's The Italian Crusader is, how much of a marketing budget do you have? How much are you going to put up TV commercials? This is the theater asking the producers. Do you have a marketing budget? Are you going to put out commercials? Are you going to do a national campaign? Are you going to take out, television ads? Are you going to do, trailers in front of other movies? Are you going to put all this money into marketing it? Because if you don't market it, no one's going to come to my theater to watch it. And it's not the theater's responsibility to market it. It's the distributor's responsibility to market it. And so it's really up to them. So if Grazobat's The Italian Crusader and their producers say, yeah, we're going to put together a $10 million marketing campaign. We're really going to focus it on your town. Let's say they're in New York. We're going to really focus it on New York and our ad campaign there. And we're going to make sure everybody knows that it's playing. And hopefully then they'll come to your theater. Then the movie theater will go, okay, yeah, if you're going to do a marketing campaign and we think people will come to it when you start your marketing campaign, we'll put it in our theater and see what happens from there. And then they'll make an exhibition deal with the producers of Grazobat's The Italian Crusader. And I got to get a t-shirt that says Grazobat's The Italian Crusader. That would be awesome. With me holding up maybe not a hammer, maybe more like a big ladle, or a kitchen spoon, like a big kitchen spoon. Grazobat's The Italian Crusader. Let's make it happen, everybody. So anyway, so now let's take it more into like something like AMC. And remember, take it with a grain of salt. I'm not the insider here. I'm just slightly more well-informed on it because I work with the company, but I don't really know all that much. But once again, so it's not AMC's responsibility to get that film, put it in our theaters when nobody's heard of it. It is up to the producers of the film to make a commitment to market and think. And a lot of times, makers of these films don't have the budgets. They don't have $25 million or $30 million to go out and do a big, North American-wide ad campaign for their film, Grazobat's The Italian Crusader. They just don't have the money to do that. And so that won't get done. Nobody will know about it. And just because it's playing in a theater near you, you're not going to go see it because you don't even know that it's playing there. And it's not up to the movie theaters to market the films. It's up to the producers and the distributors to market their films. So it's a very complex answer. I know I haven't cleared it up very much, but I hope it gave you just a little bit of perspective on it. I should actually see if I can get somebody from AMC on the show sometime to actually, maybe from AMC distributor relations, to talk about the process that might be interesting, to talk about the process that a movie would go through, what a normal movie goes through between being shot and actually ending up on an AMC screen. I think that would be really informative. Anyway, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Christopher Diaz. And Christopher writes, I've been having discussions with people about the needs of Disney villains in a Disney movie. Frozen got a couple of criticisms for a lack of a classic villain, which was fine for me because it was still a wonderful movie and the twist was actually pretty good. There's a little bit of a twist at the end, but I won't go into it. So my question is, do you need a great villain in order to make a great Disney movie? Or can you make a classic Disney movie with no villains? Excellent question, Christopher, because Disney is really known for making just some spectacular, all-time great cinematic villains. Whether it's Cruella de Vil, or whether it's Scar, or whether it's, what's the big squid queen in the Little Mermaid? Ursula? Ursula, or whether it's Maleficent, or whether it's whatever. They just always have these great classic villains. But A great classic villain in a genre like a Disney animated film is just one ingredient at the filmmaker's disposals. You don't have to put every ingredient in to make it a good dish or to make a good movie. And Frozen is a great example of a film that the story, I believe, was so wonderful. It was just a wonderful story that it didn't need the inclusion of some big ominous bad guy. There is a villain in the film, yes, but it's not, the villain doesn't play a huge role in the film, and it's really, it's certainly not going to be considered one of the classic Disney villains ever, but it didn't need it. It was a type of movie that didn't need it. And so it's fine. Now, it's different with a big action film. Like I've always said, with a big action film, I believe a great compelling villain is a necessity. I mean, because how great would the original Die Hard be if it wasn't for Hans Gruber? It's still a good movie, but it would not be on the level it is without Hans Gruber. Star Wars without Darth Vader, for example. I mean, so when you look down like really great action films and things like that, I think they have a bigger need for a strong antagonist than, say, a film like a classic Disney film, which I don't think always needs it, but it's always great when it's there. So I agree with you. All right. Now we got 2 questions left in the mailbag, and then what we're going to do is we're going to throw it open to you guys and your questions and comments on the chat board. Anne is over here monitoring the chat board. She's keeping her eyes. She's going to be picking some out. So now's a good time for you to start putting some questions in. I'm going to go through these last 2 questions, and then we're going to throw it over to Anne to pick what you guys are saying in the chat board. So let's go on to the next question here quickly. And the next question comes to us from Shane Klestinsky. I hope I'm saying your name right, Shane.
Bless you.
I know a Serenity sequel is highly unlikely considering its lack of box office success. That said, if Chiwetel Ejiofor wins the Oscar for 12 Years a Slave, what do you think about the chances of a spin-off featuring his operative character, assuming he was interested in the project? He was the villain in that movie, but pound for pound, his character seemed to evolve the most by the end, opening up a lot of possibilities. The show is awesome. Keep up the great work. Thanks a lot, Shane. I said this on the show the other day. Chiwetel Ejiofor, I've been saying for years, is the single most underrated and underappreciated actor in Hollywood today. And one of my favorite performances of his of all time is his performance in Serenity. And his villain, the operative, we were just talking about great villains, right? His character, the main bad guy, just is one of the biggest reasons that movie was so great. It's such a great, wonderfully written character, and Chiwetel performed it so perfectly. It's awesome, but nobody went to go see the movie. It made very, very little money, despite the fact that it's one of my top 10 favorite sci-fi films of the past decade. Nobody went to go see it. So just because one of the stars starts getting some notoriety, I don't think it would be enough imperative for a studio to stand up and say, let's do a Serenity spin-off movie with the operative. And I don't think it would work. I don't think any studio would do it. And despite the fact that now Chiwetel is going to start to get some recognition as one of the great actors in Hollywood today, I still don't think it would be enough to make people who didn't go see the first Serenity to go back and watch it now. So unfortunately, because I would kill to see another Serenity movie in any form, but I don't think it's going to happen. And even if Chiwetel wanted to do it. All right, last mailbag question before we get to the chat board. And the last mailbag question today comes to us from Cody Reese, and Cody writes, "Hey guys and ladies of AMC, I have 2 questions. Well, I edited out one. You only get one question per email. But anyway, one, I was wondering, will there be a sequel to District 9? I love the movie very much, and I believe that there should be a sequel after the big cliffhanger." District 9 was a real pleasant surprise movie for a lot of us. I adored District 9, and I just mentioned top 10 sci-fi films the past decade. District 9 would be one of the films in that top 10 list as well. It was so great, and it had a great ending for a lead-in to a sequel. But then nothing ever got said about it. And then the director of the film, why am I forgetting his name? Let me just pull up his name here quick. But the director of the film, a lot of people thought would go on and do a District 9 sequel after District 9. But instead, he went on to do Elysium. And Neil Blomkamp, that's the director's name. He went on to do Elysium instead. I didn't like Elysium. Nowhere near as much as I liked District 9. Actually, I didn't like it overall. I didn't think it was a very good effort. So then people thought, okay, now he'll do District 9. And Elysium didn't do the box office a lot of people thought it was. A lot of people were pegging that it would make around 350 million worldwide, and I think it made somewhere around 220, which is still not bad. But for a $115 million film, that means it made profit, but not a lot. After you take into considering marketing costs and film exhibitor cuts and all that kind of stuff, it really is not much money that it ended up making. And they were really hoping that Neil Blomkamp's name after District 9 would get a lot more people interested. But the movie didn't turn out very well, and it didn't do very well compared to how much they wanted. But still, some people thought, okay, now he'll go back and do District 10. Well, now he's got a new movie that he's working on called Chappie. And Chappie is an interesting sounding, again, futuristic, sci-fi kind of film. Also, once again, starring Sharlto Copley, who is in District 9. He's the main character in District 9, and he's the villain in Elysium. So he's making a movie with him right now called Chappie. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say that I believe the future of District 10 will really a lot depend on Chappie. I think if Chappie is a hit, then I think you'll see a studio want to push more for a District 10 and find out where that story goes. Because District 9 ended with an obvious big wide open door for a sequel. And I think it will all depend on Chappie. If Chappie does great, I believe it all depends on Chappie. So we'll see how that all kind of turns out. All right, that will do it for the questions that we're pulling out of the mailbag. Now the rest of the show is really up to you guys and what you want to talk about. You want to see those of you who are watching us live right now. Anne's got the chat board open right now. So, Anne, you got any questions pulled out already?
Yes, I have a ton of them. So the first one is from Normal Comrade, who asks, what do you think about the new posters released for Dawn of the Planet of the Apes?
Godness.
Caesar is not happy.
That is not a happy Caesar. Oh my goodness. That's okay. You know what I'm going to do? Give me a second here, because I want to, just for those of you who are watching live and don't know what we're talking about, I know you're probably Planet of the Apes. I know you're probably frantically looking around on the internet right now for these new posters. But let me pull one of these up and get it on screen here and see what we can see. Okay, here we go. The poster looks really great.
Scary.
It looks kind of scary, but it's looking really solid, looking really great. And I don't know that I can get this poster up on the show or not. Oh, here we go. Okay, it's coming up. Okay, let me do this. And then let me do this. Okay, here's the poster we're talking about here. That's a... If I don't know that this one's Caesar. No, this one's not Caesar. There were others with Caesar.
All of them are there.
But they're all kind of looking like this. Mm-hmm. I love it. I unequivocally Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Is that the new one?
Yeah.
I like a lot that I've been hearing about. Now, it's really unfortunate that the scheduling stuff didn't work out and the director from the first film couldn't come back. That was a bump in the road. But I got to tell you, from the casting to the story outline I've been hearing, to the things I'm hearing from people from the studio, this film's working out pretty well. I'm going to bring it up again. These posters are great. I think that looks awesome. All right, what's our next question?
So yesterday and today, there are actually a few people debating who should be cast as Alfred in the next Batman film. So people are throwing out Jeffrey Rush, they're throwing out Tom Hanks, and they're wondering who you think.
Who I think? Well, let me... the one of the guys that has really come up a couple of times for me, and it all depends on what kind of Alfred do you want. Because in the comic books and in the movies, there have been slightly different iterations, if you will, of the Alfred character. Sometimes Alfred is portrayed as a very frail little old man that you kind of get the feeling Bruce Wayne just keeps around because of family loyalty. But sometimes story, honestly, without hesitation, is the best written comic story I have read since Age of Apocalypse. So we're going back 15 years, maybe more, since Age of Apocalypse. Best written comic series I have read in like 15 years. Injustice Gods Among Us. Some of you are familiar with the game. This 30-issue comic story is a prequel to the game, what leads up to the events that you have going on in the game. It is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. If you've got the Comixology app, the comics app on your tablet or phone, I highly recommend start downloading this series because it's awesome. And anyway, there's a great part in it where Alfred, and this is going to sound silly. It's going to sound silly, but it comes across the way they execute it is awesome. Where Alfred kicks the living crap out of Superman. It's great. And so Alfred can come across as a real badass. I know it sounds silly, Alfred beating up Superman. Read the comic and it totally fits. It totally doesn't seem silly or come out of the blue. It's just perfect.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, the guy I have really been thinking about for Alfred was actually rumored for Alfred a while ago, and I don't think there's any truth to it. But for me, it's former James Bond Timothy Dalton. I think Timothy Dalton would be a great mixture of obviously much older, could be a father figure to Bruce, but still has some real badass in him. Because if you saw Timothy Dalton in that TV show Chuck, he was in Chuck for like 2 seasons, I think. And he can still come across as extremely badass if he wants to. I think he would be a great mix of those Alfred. But it all depends. If the filmmakers want to go for the more frail, older father, grandfather-like image of Alfred that sometimes we get, then Timothy Dalton's not the guy. But if you want to go for a guy who could be a little bit badass, I think you go for Timothy Dalton. That's my. What are some people kind of mentioning their picks?
Jeffrey Rush and Tom Hanks are the ones I've been seeing.
I don't see Tom Hanks.
No, I don't see Tom either.
And I can see Tom Hanks in just about anything. Don't get me wrong. If they announce Tom Hanks as Alfred, I'm not going to complain. It's never a mistake to add one of the greatest acting talents in the history of the business. But what was the other one? Jeffrey Rush. Jeffrey Rush isn't a bad one.
Definitely has potential. He's more of the first iteration that you were talking about.
Yeah,
kind of
Jeffrey Rush I could see that as a fit. Mm-hmm. My first choice stays Timothy Dalton, though. All right. So what else do we got?
Okay, so Alexander Girard asks, what do you guys think about Andrew Garfield possibly not returning for Amazing Spider-Man 4? Personally, I don't want him to go.
I don't want him to go either. I think Andrew Garfield has done a fantastic job as a modern Peter Parker. And look, no disrespect intended at all to Tobey Maguire and his portrayal of Spider-Man, but let's understand, he portrayed a 1950s Peter Parker. He portrayed a 1960s Peter Parker. The golly gosh, Aunt May, that Peter Parker. If you were to take the spirit of that character, more book smart than street smart, kind of an outsider, kind of a loner, trouble finding his identity, his place in high school. In 1960s, that looks like Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker. But in 2012, at the time, 2013, 2014, that looks a lot more like the Andrew Garfield character, a version of Peter Parker. And I think he did a brilliant job of capturing that essence of what Peter Parker is, but what that would look in our context today. And that's why I think he did a brilliant job with it. I'm so looking forward to The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I can't remember if he's on for Spider-Man, if he's officially signed for Spider-Man 3 or not. I think he is. But then he says, he's not committed beyond that. And maybe he doesn't. Leave it in the chat board, guys, if you remember. I can't remember if he's questionable for Spider-Man 3 or if he's questionable for Spider-Man 4. Either way, I don't want him to go. I want him there. But I have always said the role or the character is bigger than the actor. The character is bigger than the actor. And we've seen it time and time again. Nobody can play Peter Parker but Tobey Maguire. Really? Andrew Garfield just stepped in, knocked it out of the park. A lot of us love it, and a lot of us think it's a better Peter Parker. Some of you don't agree. Totally cool. That's the best thing about film. And you have your reasons for why you think Tobey was better. I have my reasons for thinking why Andrew Garfield is better. But as much as I love Garfield, he's replaceable. They're all replaceable. You get a guy who can do a great job. And Andrew Garfield is not the only person on the... And I love Andrew Garfield. I think he deserved an Oscar for Social Network. I think he got robbed because he didn't even get nominated for Best Supporting Actor. And he was the heart and soul of that movie. He was the only glimpse of humanity. He brought the humanity to the Social Network. And he didn't even get an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. He should have won Best Supporting Actor. that year. I'm not saying his performance was better than Christian Bale's in The Fighter, but Christian Bale in The Fighter, that was a joke that he was in the Best Supporting Actor category. He was every bit the lead actor of The Fighter that Mark Wahlberg was. And so it was a travesty of justice and a joke that Christian Bale was in the Best Supporting Actor category. They just put him in there because it was a weaker field, and they knew he wasn't going to win it for Best Actor against the dude from King's Speech. Why am I forgetting his name? Anyway, I'm able to pull off. I'm looking at his face in my head right now, but I can't pull up his name. But anyway, Andrew Garfield, brilliant, awesome. But there are other great actors out there who could do a great job, and I don't want him to go. If it's up to me, Colin Firth. Thank you very much. If it's up to me, Andrew Garfield stays. But if he goes, it's not the end of the world, because we are lucky that in Hollywood there are other really great, talented actors out there who could step in and maybe even do a better job. We'll just have to wait and see. Okay, what's next?
Okay, Clovey101 asks, hey, AMC people, is there any chance for a Dredd sequel?
This question's come up a lot. Honestly, I don't think so. I don't think we're going to get a Dredd sequel. The new Carl Urban Dredd it's wonderful. It's a really fun, gritty, hard R, ultra violent, ultra graphic, just a fun ride of a movie. I was so shocked when, like a year and a half ago, we watched it at Comic-Con for the first time, and I was really surprised by how good it is. But nobody went to go see it. The marketing for the film wasn't very good. I've criticized Lionsgate for the job they did on the marketing of that film. I think it was poor marketing. But they made a great movie, and nobody went to go see it. And no, we're not going to see a sequel. I mean, maybe we'll get another Dredd movie straight to home video, not starring Carl Urban. Maybe we'll get something like that. But as far as a true sequel to that Carl Urban Dredd, I don't see it happening. I hope I'm wrong, because I would love to see another Dredd film. I just don't think it will happen.
And Carl Urban's a bit busy, too.
He's a little busy.
With Almost Human.
Yeah.
Okay, David Burka asks, how much input will George Lucas end up having in Star Wars?
That is a great question. I think George Lucas will probably have as much input into the new Star Wars as he wants to have.
Yeah.
But how much does he want to have? I don't know. I really don't. I mean, let's make no mistake about it. This is going to be J.J. Abrams' film. Mm-hmm. This is going to be Kathleen Kennedy's film. This is going to be Disney's film. And Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams will make the decisions. But I also think they both revere George Lucas. George Lucas has no legal claim to have any input on the film. Like, he can't say, I trump you, you have to do what I say. Nope, he's got none of that. But Kathleen Kennedy reveres George Lucas, as many of us do. I worship at the altar of George Lucas. No matter how bad the prequels were, he's still George Lucas. J.J. Abrams reveres George Lucas. And I think they want his direction. And look, I still think George Lucas is the guy to give us Star Wars stories. He's just not the guy who should write the scripts or direct the films. I think that's where he went way off the rails. I still believe if you sat down and looked at a one-page synopsis of each of the 3 prequel movies, they read as excellent potential stories. But then he just got his hands into the script and he directed it. And I believe those were big mistakes. So I believe J.J. Abrams is calling him. And I believe whenever George Lucas calls J.J. Abrams to say he's got an idea, I believe J.J. Abrams is taking that call. But ultimately, it's Kathleen Kennedy's film. It's J.J. Abrams' film. They will make the decisions, but I think they'll listen very closely to anything George Lucas just happens to have to say. I just hope he's not on set giving directing tips to J.J. Abrams, because as of today, J.J. Abrams is a better director than George Lucas.
So remember last night when we were riding home from Aaron Darling's birthday party, and I asked you a question.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Yesterday, with AMC Movie News' own Aaron Darling, was her birthday yesterday.
Yes, happy birthday.
Ann and I went over and stuck our noses into her birthday party last night. But anyway, yes, so we were riding home from Hollywood last night.
And this awesome person named Woody Kid has just asked the same question, so I'm putting you on the spot.
Okay.
What's your favorite Christmas movie?
Oh, hell with you. She's like in the car, like, what's your favorite Christmas movie? I'm like, I don't know. She goes, well, you better think about it because I'm going to ask you on the show tomorrow.
And I didn't ask you. Somebody asked it.
I don't know what my favorite Christmas movie is, to be honest. I mean, Christmas.
Star Wars.
Star Wars is my favorite Christmas movie. The Star Wars Christmas special is my favorite Christmas movie. No, it's, Christmas is my favorite time of year. I always say the Oscars are my second favorite time of year, right behind Christmas. Christmas, there's no season I love more than Christmas. And yet I don't know that I have I know my mom every Christmas puts on the old Ebenezer Scrooge film, the old one with I'm trying to remember Alistair. I can't remember the actor's name off the top of my head, but the old one. So that's right up there. It's a Wonderful Life definitely is right up there. I don't consider Die Hard a Christmas movie. It happens at Christmas time, but it is not a Christmas movie. So those, but I'd have to say I'd probably lean towards the classic ones. What about you?
I love Home Alone, and I
knew you were going to say
love National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation because it reminds me so much of my family too.
Indeed. All right, let's take time for one more from the chat board.
Oh, geez. Okay, I didn't expect one more. James.
Well, I mean, we would go longer. But I got some football to watch, ladies and gentlemen, and Anne's actually got a party she's got to get to. So we gotta get to. We just have time for one more. Sorry, guys. What's the one more you're gonna pick? Pressure's on.
Oh gosh. James Cookson asks, "What are your thoughts on IMAX movies? And do you like it when there are IMAX sequences in big budget movies like The Dark Knight, Star Trek, and The Hunger Games?"
It's neat when a Hollywood film puts in IMAX sequences, like with The Dark Knight. I mean, that was pretty special. I remember the first time sitting in an IMAX theater and that opening shot came out with the cityscape in The Dark Knight before the bank robbery. And we all just gasped. I mean, it looked beautiful. But I got to admit, it pulls me out when it goes from IMAX to regular. That pulls me out a bit. So I'd rather than just shoot it in IMAX if they're going to do that. I understand that's very difficult and it's very expensive. But I almost rather them do that. I got to admit, I always have fun when I go to a full-fledged IMAX presentation of something, but not so much that I run out and do it a lot. It really depends on what you're into and what you're liking. For me, I don't run out to the bigger IMAX presentation. We got a great IMAX screen at the AMC City Walk. Attached to Universal City here in LA, and it's that's where I saw The Dark Knight. And when I do go to see a 3D movie or a true IMAX movie, that's usually where I go. But I gotta admit, I always enjoy myself when I'm there, but I don't find myself running out of my way to go do it a lot. All right, folks, that'll do it for us. We are all out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. And listen, I want to remind you once again, please click on that link that you see in the video description or type this link into your browser. Head on over to our disaster relief fund page that we're doing in cooperation with the Red Cross. And please donate $10, $20, $50, $100, whatever you can do would be awesome. Listen, if you're like 14 years old and you watch this show and you don't have a credit card, this is what you do. You wait till mommy and daddy go to sleep.
No.
And then what you do is you find mommy's purse.
No, stop.
And then you sneak into her purse. And the card will look like... No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. I'm kidding before anybody thinks I'm serious. I'm absolutely joking. But do what you can if you have a credit card and you can do stuff like that. That would be just awesome. So thank you, first of all, to my lovely wife, Anne, for helping us out today. Thanks, Anne.
Sorry I couldn't get to everyone's questions, but next time.
Next time, we are going to have AMC Mailbag again next weekend, and then we're going to take a break for the Christmas holidays. But next weekend, we are back on. So we'll do it a little bit longer. We'll do like an hour and a half show next week. And we'll get to as many questions as we can. Thank you to you guys. Don't forget, lots of great films playing in AMC theaters right now, including The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for your theater, showtime, and movie ticket information. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. It'll keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news. And hey, listen, I've got another YouTube channel where I talk about TV. A lot of people always write to me and ask me to address TV questions on our movie show. I'm not sure why you guys keep doing that. But I do have another YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/movieblogtv. And we do an Arrow. Ann and I do an Arrow after show.
Yes.
We do a Sleepy Hollow after show. I'm going to be starting a Grimm after show as well. So we're going to start talking TV over there if you want to join us over there. So, Ann, where can people find you online on Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter at Ann Campia.
And you can find me on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, whatever, just at John Campia. Thanks again for joining us, guys. Go out, have a wonderful Sunday. My name is John Campia for AMC Movie News, and until next time, bye-bye.